interesting debate to start. What's most important, art or mechanics?
It depends on the game. I'd say it depends on the game.
Okay, Douglas with the diplomatic answer. George with the diplomatic answer. Who's willing to take a risk?
So, speaking as a game development lecturer now, say it's mechanics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe Isaac has already said his. This is mechanics.
Yeah.
Let me preface mine by saying why I'm saying it depends on the game. There are some games that are completely simple, like there's nothing amazing about them, but just the delivery of appearance, how they're able to like immerse you into their world. Let me give a good example. There's a game called Sayonara's. What? Go on. Okay, I'll send you a link after this. I don't know if there's a chat here. I'll probably post it here. What you notice about the game is it's pretty normal. It's a pretty normal. In fact, it's almost like it plays like an endless runner. But because of the art, because of the sound, because of how they narrated the game, it was on a level of like a PC game or level of a Nintendo game. This is actually put on those stores, but it actually just plays exactly like an endless runner, like Temple Run. It was basically a very, very, very polished looking Temple Run, but it sold so much and it was an amazing played game. That's because they knew also, like you said, they knew what they were good at. They knew our strengths are art, our sense of making stuff look pretty. Let's just go 100% on that and let's just get mechanics that work. You get? So I think it depends on your game.
Okay, awesome. Any additional opinions? Oscar and Douglas, before you get to Joanna? Or Joanna, would you like to go first? Joanna, you're on mute.
The thing is that I don't have a lot of, I'm not a developer per se, so I don't have a lot of comment to say about that.
So, interesting angle. Just assume as a player, what's most important to you? You're just playing a game. I give you a second.
Maybe to ask Dean's question in a more simplified way for somebody, for a player. Do you enjoy a game? What do you enjoy more in a game? Is it visually or in the terms of the gameplay? You know, like when you're jumping, you're beating enemies. Do you prefer a good experience visually or a good experience as you're playing? Let me put it like that.
I think I prefer a better playing experience. However, I still love what I can see is nice. You know, the graphism and everything. But indeed, if it's not flawless, yes, it's the mechanics then would be better. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I also like to add that I think I kind of agree again with sorry, your name, George.
Yes.
I think So as an indie developer, you don't have any choice. Like you don't have so many options. So as an indie developer, he, for instance, might not be so great at art. So for now, as an indie developer, I think probably you should just concentrate on game mechanics and strike a partnership with someone like Oscar, who is great at art, and you have a great game.
Hint, hint.
Yeah. Right now, we are all just one-man soldiers. Probably the highest you have is 2 in a team or 3 in a team. The fourth person is probably going to be lazy.
And I can reply to that as a business development in that case. And I would say the graphics will attract people more than the mechanics. So depending really of where you sit, the attraction will be the graphics, and then the retention will actually be the mechanics.
True, very true, very true. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Oscar, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I totally agree with what George said. I'm in total agreement. The first thing is the graphics is what will serve as something appealing to attract people to come to try out your game. And when they are playing your game, that's the mechanics, the feedback they get is what will make them stay. That is what will affect the retention. And again, if you now want to look at it from a broader perspective, it's not just, there are many factors involved. Just as George said, the kind of game, the kind of audience as well, the platform you are playing the game from. Is it mobile? Is it PC? Is it VR? If it's a VR game, there are many ways you would need to go around to make it much more appealing than compared to when you are dealing with mobile games or PC. Get the idea. So those are things that need to be factored in. There's no one rule fits all, but in general, everything is important. You just need to know what your key KPIs are. What are you aiming for at first? Because you can't complete a game. There'll always be room for improvement. So what's the first thing you want to do? You want to get 10,000 downloads. The cover art, make it very appealing. The trailer, spend more time than even the game. You get the idea.
True.
Then once you get them, you now start improving on the game. So that's how it works. Just who are you? Who are you looking at? Who's your audience? Where are they playing from? What are you trying to achieve at first? And yeah, everything is important. And business-wise, game player-wise, everything is important.
Okay, awesome. Interesting. Finally, Douglas.
I think for me, usually the gameplay is most important, depending on how hard. For me, gaming is more like a challenge. The Candy Crushes, are for casual, but for me, I think some games are usually good, especially when they become more. Well, it's definitely. Well, games do get important harder by level, but I think for me, it's always about experiencing a game that I don't know anything about it and seeing how quickly I can actually get to learn more about what the developer was thinking when they were building it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. To bring it directly back into the conversation, any additional thoughts for Daniel on mechanics?
I have one. It's not really on mechanics, but
Okay.
it's on, I think, what will really elevate your game, because the game was okay. But if you want one thing, at least it's advice for any indie studio or even any company or anything you're making, your game needs a hook. A hook is that thing people are going to want to play your game for, and the people and the reason why they'll continue playing. And I think you just mentioned the things that are important right now. Visuals. That's now your pre-hook. That's your trailers. That's your bombastic visuals. That's everything looking pretty and shiny. Go, oh wow, it's so beautiful. I want to play that, of course. And then now your gameplay comes in pre-hook. That's when people are now they've got your game. Now is your game good enough to actually keep them there? And to do that, now all the aspects of your game need that hook. Your hook could be, I'm going to give you an example. There's a game called Crypt of the Necro Dancer. Even the name of the game on its own is like, what the hell is that? What is this about? But it already catches your attention and you already want to see. That's a pre-hook. And if you dig in deeper and you ask him, okay, what's this game about? He tells you it's a dungeon crawler and it's also a rhythm game. So it's a game about music, but it's a game about killing enemies in dungeons. You'll be like, okay, what the hell? What does that even mean? How do you do that? How do you play according to the music, but at the same time, kill enemies in a dungeon? And then they had other hooks for any other thing. So when you're thinking about your game, if it's the art, if it's the gameplay, if it's the name, tell them about a hook. Why does anybody want to play this? Of course, you will play it because you're the developer. But let's say some guy on the streets. Think about it. His name is, I don't know, McKenna, and he's walking on the street. And you ask him, why would McKenna want to play my game? And that's what you really need to really figure out. I guess for the new thing, your remaster, always think about that. Why would anybody want to play my game? And I see so many hooks in your game so far. You have this thing where you collect. I think they're like different items. I saw like colors, like the sandals. I saw like different ornaments and stuff. A cool hook is maybe you're trying to. This could be costumes you could be adding to your character, or they could be powers that you get new, I don't know, abilities or buffs inside the level. So maybe he kicks the colors and he becomes super fast. I don't know. Or he gets a necklace and suddenly he can fly. Whatever you want to add into that. And you can add narrative if you want, you can add folklore. But all of these things really depend on what is my hook? What do I want people to remember my game for? What do I want them to play for? But yeah, I think if you get that, honestly, you're done. You're really done. Your job as a game developer is finished. Yeah. But yeah, that's just my advice.
All right, thank you, George. I'll take that into consideration. And also for the remaster, it's not really a remaster because I'm working with basically the same assets, but it's I'm using a different engine to develop the game, and as well as I'm developing the game, I'm also working on a tutorial on. So I'm planning on making the assets free and uploading a tutorial onto YouTube, and the assets will be free for whoever wants to download them and follow along the tutorial and make their own Wana Savana, and I'm working on.
What engine are you using?
Right now, so the current game, the game that you played on your phones, that is installed on your phones right now, was written in pure Java. Like I didn't have any special engine or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's all written in Java. But right now, with the new game, I'm working in Godot. Are any of you familiar with Godot?
Yeah.
I installed it, but I haven't really used it much, honestly.
Yeah, so I checked it out and I fell in love with it. How simple it is, basically instantly, and it's the engine that I'll be using henceforth for all my projects. At school, we work with Unity, but Unity becomes, compared to Godot, Unity is too cumbersome.
Masharia,
Yeah.
are you trying to be conservative?
I know we have a Unity rep in the room.
I know that we are recorded, so Dean, you will have to cut this. Huh?
No worries.
I actually quit Unity, and my last day is June 30.
Okay.
Oh
wow!
End of this month.
Yes.
Okay.
So to support, actually, so one of my main activity will be supporting the African gaming industry and the Middle Eastern gaming industry as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations on your move.
Yeah, and also another, if I can just finish on the point with Godot, another very strong point that makes me want to lean on Godot very much. Like I said, I'm starting to do online tutorials, and Godot, the size of Godot on my laptop right now is about 50 to 60 megabytes only.
The whole engine.
Africa, yeah, the whole engine. And I actually walk around with my projects in a flash disk, in a 2 GB flash disk. So when I'm at school, I continue developing my projects at school on my hard disk, on my flash disk, that is 2 GB. We all know that in Africa, internet and data is very
precious.
Yeah, very precious. Like, it's not easy to come by. So these other engines are very big. They occupy, to download Unity, I think you need something like 2 to 5 GB. And they're periodically updating, producing updates that break projects every now and then. So for me, Godot is tailor-made, just tailor-made for Africa. It's the size is so small, and it's very easy to pick up, very easy, and very capable. In terms of 2D, I think it's just as capable, if not more capable than Unity. So yeah, that's the reason why I chose to take up Godot and not Unity.
Okay.
But at school we use Unity, I have to say. Yeah.
Can I go sideways and just curiously ask Joanna, what next?
Yes, as I said, there is a full-time entrepreneurship like Oscar. Yes, full-time entrepreneurship. I have 4 type of activities in the new business setup. One of the first would be to support governmental institutions. So continue to bring the digital innovation and digital transformation to Middle Eastern. So I have already a prospect, a customer in the Middle East region and the Africa region as well, utilizing the gaming industry. Why? To really support the grassroots community that you are from, because whatever we can say, everything is not yet ready for the game industry to flourish. So there is a lot of structures that have to be put in place to really have this big ecosystem. So the first one would be supporting large enterprise and governmental in that, being the bridge with some of the biggest corporations that want to be in the space as well, that reach out to me to know about the community, but as well to support developers like you with investment and investment fund and managing that. Another activity will still continue to be the talk show. I have actually last week, I recently pitched a talk show for broadcast networking focusing on the gaming industry, but the behind the scene of the gaming industry. So I'm at the second round of that talk show and continuing speaking on diversity and inclusion in the gaming industry.
Awesome, fantastic. Wish you the best country to see what you work on. I'm sure all of us would agree. Any help you need, do not hesitate to ask. And yeah, country to see what you do next.
Sure, thank you.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Any final thoughts on mechanics for Daniel?
So maybe, okay, this one.
Oh, sorry. I think for me, it's for me the final thoughts or takeaways is that for Mashari, I think the good thing is that he's been on both sides, the development as well as the art, and also given that being a lecturer, I believe he's at the front row in terms of seeing what is happening in the industry. So I believe for sure that what will definitely come next. I'm not sure if this is Wana Savana 3.0, but I believe it will be something that we'll definitely be looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, apart from doing I'm calling it a remaster, but I'm not quite sure that that's the correct term. Apart from that, I'm working on a new and very exciting project. This one, I'm almost dead certain that it's going to be a hit, not just in Nairobi but all over Africa. It's something I'll be sharing on my YouTube channel soon, but I've been showing it to my students at school, and all of them like they're hyped. They're more hyped about playing that game than they are about watching like Fast 9. So
could you give us a few more hints about what kind of game it is?
Yeah, an exclusive
for the industry.
Yeah.
So it's a beat 'em up.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't say much more than that, but it's a beat 'em up that is hinging or pivoting on the culture in Nairobi right now that's taken over. Yeah, for the guys in Kenya, they'll know what I'm talking about. The Odi culture that has taken over.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you see George laughing.
This should be interesting. I already want to play. You see, that's a cool hook. That's a really, really cool hook. If you could make like a OD beat 'em up, I'm already want to play that. I don't even care if it's bad. Just take my money. But yeah. But cool. Interesting stuff. I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, diving directly into the art, I'm realizing I'm not saying much, so maybe let me start on this one. For me, one of the key hooks for Zawadi was the art, especially the backgrounds. And there was something, and I think we even had a conversation, Daniel, about it about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
I really loved the background. It really truly reminded me of certain places in Africa with the long horizon, the colors of the sky, the sun, and etc. That really hooked me. And my initial thought would be, okay, are we able to see a more varied background as the levels continue? And I know from a technical standpoint, it is easier said than done, but from a user-player standpoint, that would be super interesting. Yes, maybe slightly similar to Mzito, cough. But that would be really interesting to see. Any other thoughts on the art? Any other thoughts on the character?
I'd say a tiny one. Mine is just mainly with the platforms. I feel like the platforms didn't match the background. I don't know if you guys got that feeling. I feel like the background was so well polished, but the backgrounds felt like a sticker was slapped on the background at some places. So normally the best thing to do is make you shouldn't. It's not wise to put like an actual platform and then a background behind it. You rather make it the ground. I don't know how the best way I could explain this. Because it almost felt like they were floating in the air rather than actually being like I'm walking on the ground. You know if that makes sense. So I'd say definitely try and make sure that your platforms match your backgrounds, because that sometimes will break immersion. When you're playing the game. So if you can just nail that, make sure that my actual platforms that I'm actually putting also look like they are a living part of this background, then I think you'll nail most of the art. But I'm not much of an art person, so I think Oscar would be the best person to like give you advice on this.
Yeah. So, George, precisely on that, you realize, and I know it's something that you faced yourself when you were working on your game.
Yeah.
When you're trying to explain your vision to the artist, the guy, to the illustrator, there's something that gets lost in translation. There's usually a breakdown in, I don't know what happens, but there's, and you realize, because this is not somebody that you're working with. If he's on the desk next to mine and he does something and I'm like, no, you need to just change a bit of this here, change a bit of this there. But this is, you're giving somebody instructions and then they're going to implement whatever you're doing. You get the visual feedback of the assets in like a week's time. And so in order to even minimize now the back and forth, you might end up in that loop for like indefinitely.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're just forced to accept, it's good enough.
Yeah. Okay. No, I've been in that scenario too. And how, I don't know. Okay, for us personally, for our studio, we've had this really bad luck where we never keep our artists. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's something we're telling them or something we're doing with them. I don't know. Maybe Oscar can give me a hint. But we tend to get a lot of new artists. So even new artists, we come up to like almost slightly retrain them about everything we need to do, and then things go. But they don't really even work. We're like a remote company, so everybody's wherever they are all over the world. They could be in someone's basement for all we know. But the actual core thing is, I try to slow down the process as much as I can. Okay, based on your timeline, and I tell him to throw things at me as early as possible. Like even if he draws a line, show me that line. I don't know if that line looks good. If it's 2 lines, I don't know if that 2 lines looks good. So that's normally the best way to do it. Just as early as possible, no matter how bad that sketch looks like. If it's stick figures, I want to see your stick figures, and make sure that, because if you do that, the earlier you give feedback, the better the final product is. Because because it's much better than coming after a whole week. He's done everything.
But
and it's like this guy. Yeah.
It's not a micromanagement.
Artists don't like that.
Of course, you give freedom. Saying something over their shoulder and like, hey, you.
That's why they leave.
I'm just saying, like, think about it this way. Week 1, instead of week 1 saying, give me the whole background ready, tell me, give me the first sketch. That's what you probably say. So that way, if it's a sketch is easy to change. Change this, change that, change that. I'm not saying stand over your shoulder and be like, no, draw here. At the end of the day, you're not the professional. And likely he knows what he's doing probably better than what you do. But it's just better to like stretch out the goals and have like a good amount of allow the idea to warm up in your head. Because sometimes maybe his idea is better than yours. Maybe what you were thinking was not even the best way it could look best. So that's what I normally do. Have as many sketches as you can before you settle in on what you want. And then that way it's a bit easier. At least that's what works for me. Like I said, Oscar, tell us.
Well, I think from my end, I don't know what Isaac would think, but I think this is where project management comes in. I think this is also where you have things like, okay, the game design documents, the guidelines, because I feel like remote work, why it doesn't work for some people are actually working too independently. It doesn't mean you should, I don't really agree with micromanaging, even if I do it. But then the point I'm trying to say here is, I feel like, I immediately made mention of it. I went back to open the game to look at it. And yes, I could see that it's like the artist came up with his own idea, and then you have to merge his idea with the background. So I feel if they are carried along in the process, even if they're working on something differently, everybody has a clear picture of the overview and they can see what they are working towards. Because looking back, I could see the clear distinction that those platforms really look different from the background. So if you have like a place where or you have your art, your guidelines for the style, for the art, your art style guidelines. It's clear to him this is what we want. And then you give room for open feedback because one-on-one discussions between client and designers don't always go very well, especially when one person is seeing something differently. But this game is not for you, it's not for the artist, it's for the users. So do you have a test user base, a set of people that give feedback? So that in most cases, when they give feedback as well, when feedback is coming from them, then it's more like they say data doesn't lie. So there's no argument. If the people that are going to play the game are complaining, I'm paying you to make them happy, not me happy. So things I see that are needed. There needs to be points where the art knows the style, the guideline. I think that's even the first thing before any artist is doing anything for you. Even as a brand, there needs to be the style guideline for you to know that this is what I want to communicate. So it must follow that. Then give room for feedback, not just from you. If you make it too personal, it can get heated. We're all humans. And the artist can tell you, hey, I've designed for bigger studios. You're not even paying me enough. You're stressing me. Yeah. So if you give room, say, for example, you have the user base that tests your game, like a small group, and then you can add these stand-ups. So the music guy is there, the art guy is there, the level designer, bring what you have done, then you play it before them, and they give their feedback. You'll find out that all you need to do is even just follow up with your team. You won't need to interact because they can see that the people that are meant to consume this service, this is what they think of what they have done, not you. This it doesn't get personal, and if they are able to, everybody knows where the fault is coming from.
Yeah. So just
Yes.
another thing on working with these artists, you realize that you're getting somebody on contract. You know, you're saying I'm going to pay you X amount of money for you to deliver X number of assets, right? And you realize also that you're not the only person that's giving this artist work. You know, so probably they have like 10 or 20 other.
The Ministry of Education in Ghana.
They have other people who are giving them work to do. So the more you keep on requesting changes and tweaks here and tweaks there, you know, and you had already agreed on a set price, and he said, I'm going to do X amount of work for X amount of money. You know, you're not at liberty to now start scaling up. You know, every time that person sends in work, you know, if you're always sending back, no, you didn't do it good here.
Sorry, not to cut you, right? For me, I've had this experience so long that when you want to work with me, for instance, I want to work with you, my NDA and my contracts are wicked. Yes, there's no time for us to joke or play. My NDAs, my contracts are wicked. So to butter the point that Mr. George and Oscar have made with the documentation, for me, that's what I take pride in. Make sure, even if it is 3 months, 4 months, make sure your documentation is top notch. From assets, the kind of assets you need from the artist, the kind of game programmers that you need for that particular project. Make sure that when you are sharing this document with whoever artist it is, you have to make sure the person can be your friend, but at the end of the day, as Oscar said, we are both not going to play. This is for the consumer. So this is not a time for us to be, oh, we are friends and, oh, let's relax. No. Wicked contracts, wicked documentation. I show you the artwork I want. You tell me how long it's going to take, and let's stick to that. Let's stick to that early. We don't wait for 3 months when time has elapsed and for us to be now trying to kiss our cheeks and make friendship. No. First 2-3 weeks, you have to define who you are working with. So you don't waste money.
Sorry. Oh, I should have let you finish. But to go to what he said, because the truth is, in the terms of the artist right now, to be very sincere with you, a lot of teams like these don't know what they want. And they tell you they have an idea, but then they are really, really moved by feedback, by what they see, and you find out you've gotten a job, and at the end of the day, it's like you are now helping them think. So those things need to be clear. And we really can't blame these artists for taking multiple jobs. In a game studio, which game studio in Africa is paying a developer $1,500 per month? It's not. Meanwhile, the lowest out there in the world is like maybe $3,000. Even interns earn up to $2,000. So that way you can focus. The reason why even the indie game studios in Africa would be able to produce 3 games in 3 months is because they are trying to get more money, more time to have there. But out there, a game developer, a game studio can focus on one game for 3 years. Nobody has that luxury here in Africa. So why do you want the artists to have the luxury of helping you define what you are? So we need to empathize on both ends. If you know that you're not clear on what you need, make that stated. Because sure, there are some artists that are maybe just coming up and they are willing to join you in the process. Yes, you can waste their time. But those that are established and are seeing offers would not condone that. So you need to be clear. If you have your art style clear enough, then present it and it's up to them to deliver. But if you're trying to figure it out, be open as well. I think another misconception we have is that maybe we don't have enough artists. I think Africa has lots of wonderful artists, and I'm just even discovering more and more of them. The problem is we're not ready to pay them what is due. I think that's the problem. Because if you want someone who has taught himself through MOCs online, suffered through the years gaining these skills, and is seeing offers, and you want him to do something good for you, but you are unable to pay, at the end of the day, the money you are paying would have to balance the work you are giving. So let's empathize on both ends and we'll be able to move. They need the money just as we game studios and game developers need money as well.
Yeah, and quick correction, you said we are not ready to pay them. It's not that we are not ready. We are not able,
Very true. But I like what Isaac said. Like, really think the pre-production phase is so important, and people tend to forget it. Like, really think about your idea. And you're in a beautiful place because you're literally you have so many students. Those students can be the people you test all those ideas on. Interns want to work because they need to build their portfolio. So they're the best people to come jump in your project, and you can test all those things with them. Then once you have that really concrete idea, okay, this is what I want to do. Then you can come and put somebody, and then you of course you discuss everything because you have the asset list, you have the whole idea documented, and you can ask those billions of questions. So by the time he does some work, you've even factored in the fact that, okay, in case I want to add this, I want to put these changes, how much will that cost me? Of course. So all that stuff is factored in. So you're not pissing off anybody. No one's angry. No one's leaving your project halfway done. No one's running away. All these problems that you have all can be solved if you just think about your idea very early on. And it tends to solve a lot of problems most of the time. Yeah.
Awesome. Has anyone here had a positive working relationship with an artist?
I've had several actually. Only like I think my first 2 were negative. And then once I figured it out, I was like, nah, no more. After that, almost all of them were. After that, I think all the rest were positive. Even some of them actually enjoyed the experience so much, they just gave me art for free. I was like, wow, thank you so much. Yeah. So, yeah. I think after just figuring it out that these people are also human beings and they're suffering as much as you are.
Yeah.
So, I think everybody else, people tend to understand each other that way. Yeah.
So, on that, just to answer your question, the very first Wana Savana game I ever made. So, the artist that I was working with, after delivering half the project, called me. He told me he has quit the project and he moved to another city.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I'd already paid him all majority of the money that I was supposed to.
I'm sorry, but I have to say this. You have to just suck it up.
Yeah.
He did tell me. Like I said, that was my first ever game that I developed. So
there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do, right? And he moved back to Nairobi, and right now we are friends, and we've worked on another project together. We sorted it out. It's all water under the bridge. You realize, there's things that's more important than money or than holding a grudge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
George also said something earlier that he mentioned human management. I guess we all know artists are one of group of people with huge ego. Like Oscar, I'm sorry, but you know.
True.
No.
I think that's just artists in general. Anybody in the creative scene, they're all of them. All of
If you
them.
say anybody, I agree. Don't say artist.
If you're in the creative scene, you're given an ego by default. When you enter the gate, you're given here, take, go.
Yeah. Because it takes a lot to come up with something genuine, especially
And the
something
person comes and says,
original.
"No, this is trash."
Of
And you're
course.
like, "Dude, do you know how long I've been on this?"
That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
the same thing when you make a product. If you've been
Yeah.
working on as a programmer on something for how long and somebody comes and tells you it's trash, you'll feel very
Yeah.
hurt. I just spent sleepless nights.
You poured your blood, your sweat, your soul into that project, and then somebody tells you it's
So yeah,
trash.
that's why sometimes you need someone in the team that balances that kind of ego. It's
Yeah.
like you have ice and fire. Just get that in betweener. Sometimes it can be a fine girl that works in your environment that tries to cool everybody down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, even bringing something into what you just said right now. Okay, so Africa Communicate this year we've been trying to mainly get developers, game studios, to work with publishers. And it's interesting you brought this up because I now want to bring it to make you realize it's actually almost everybody in the creative industry. Publishers are having issues getting game studios to update their games based on feedback. What do you have to say about that? You get it.
I'm sorry.
Anyone work with a publisher, yeah.
Some of the feedbacks,
Yeah.
sorry, but they're not worth it.
True.
They're not worth it.
Yeah,
They're not worth
because-
it.
yeah.
The time and the effort. Sometimes, yes, I agree with what you're saying.
And it's like some of this feedback, it's like a $1 million feedback.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean.
Just in quotes, but like it's an expensive feedback.
Yeah, the effort that's going to go into
And if
implementing
you
that
have,
feedback.
and if you have a developer that doesn't know how to communicate, he's going to go silent. For 2 years, he's not going to update it. He's not going to send an email. He's not going to say anything.
Yeah. So you've actually answered it. The cost of implementing those feedback in most cases is high. Now let's bring it down to the artist side as well. Now you understand. He's not looking, oh, I put in so much effort. You saw me going, you did not stop me. You saw me going. You let me go. And now you're asking me to come back. That he thinks, how much did you pay me for this exactly? So that's what communication does. That's what empathy does. And yeah, you see how it was. And for your first experience, where about that? Though you guys are cool now, that's also another thing that comes into hiring. There's so much we don't know about in this. There's so much that is missing in terms of structure in this creative industry. If you need a game developer right now, for example, you will most likely have to create an ad and push it out there. There's no one-stop place to meet African game developers. There's no one-stop place to vet African game developers. You get the idea. So we lack that structure, and even for new studios, I've been working with some really young lads right now. We are building things like founders agreements, things like hiring agreements, documentation of your staff for projects and likes, NDAs. Most people don't know them. So there's so much we need to fix if this industry is supposed to grow. And it's good to see that this problem is actually general. So we are working on it. I believe everyone in their own strength and ability is trying to solve a particular problem. So let's see how that goes. Because if the industry is to grow, the people coming in must not, it will be bad if those in the industry cannot fix the problem and we're in a loop. We need to settle this. Because he doesn't have any rights to just stand up and leave. If he does that, there should be a way it's accountable. But it's probably because there was no legal agreement, and even if there was one, there's nothing you could have done. So yeah, things will get better.
Yeah, a lot of this is just figuring out how to run a company. A lot of this, I think maybe even Douglas can touch on this a bit. But a lot of it is figuring out. Okay, I know how to make a game, but I do not run a company. Because running a company is how do I know how to instruct people? it's such that is so people are more complicated than even video games. Let me just tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They are more
think my only-
complicated. They have feelings, emotions, priorities, so many other things, problems, money. There's so many things that we're complicated with, and that's probably what you have to figure out, and how to keep people motivated, how to keep them interested, and at the same time how to keep them accountable. There's just so much. There's a lot, but I think we're getting there. I'm happy that I went through all that bullshit just to figure it out. Because right now, you at least you're trying to figure out, okay, this is what works, and this what doesn't. And yeah, I'm also happy for Dean for throwing this together, so we can actually share some of the ideas, because this rarely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
my-
the country is for.
Sorry, I think my only last comment was around, like what Mashari said around, you're giving. Sorry. So around giving the designer, all the money. I think usually it comes from a position of desperation, where you're like, let me motivate the developer, give him all the cash he needs, because maybe money is the problem. But I think you get to realize that money is not the motivation. So with time you get to realize, what should I give and how much should I give, so that now someone can keep working, and then you keep building. Interesting.
It's like a fisherman going for fish. You just bait the big fish with some good size amount of big worm with big head. You understand? So don't give. I'm sorry Oscar is here. Maybe we should just keep Oscar out. But don't do that. Don't give the developer. Don't give the artist. Don't give him his full pay. No.
Yeah. So
Like,
if
don't bait him in such a way that it is good, but to keep him coming back for more. Because yes, I understand that yes, he's an artist and all that, but I'm also giving you cash. I'm also giving you money. So we have to have that balance.
Yeah. Let me just try and explain, just in a minute or so, give a bit of nuance and a further explanation. So what happened? This was my first game, and the artist that I managed to clamp down after asking around for about half a year, the artist that I actually managed to clamp down and accept the project was a very big guy in the industry. Some noise coming through. Yeah, was a very, and it still is a very established artist in the industry right now in Kenya, and even back then. And after negotiating with him, initially when he was asking for,
Daniel, I'll DM you. We talk. We need to know.
all right, yeah. So initially, after talking with him, and he gave me the quotation that he gave me, which was a very, like, I looked at that quotation like this, and I was like, does this guy think I'm a millionaire? So after pleading with him, and he vastly subsidized the fee that he was asking for me, and the only it was contingent on one thing, because he subsidized it to the rate of, it was about 15% of the initial asking, whatever it was, 15% of what he was initially asking for. And he told me, now, because it's so small, you have to give me all the money in advance. That's the only way now I'm going to work on your project. So it was a compromise on his end and also on my end. So
So this is the thing about being an indie developer. Indie at life, indie at business, indie at everything. You have to be very shrewd. You have to be very shrewd. Oscar is my fellow Nigerian brother. He knows how it goes down here in Nigeria. We always say you have to shine your eye. You understand? It's an indie. We are not a big studio. You don't have $1 million to go and spend on certain things. So as an indie developer, you are basically splitting your feeding fee to develop your own project. If today you have to spend 100 naira or on food, you are basically going to spend 20 naira on food, and the rest goes into your business. So with that mindset, you have to be very shrewd. I don't know if you have to be very shrewd at this particular point. Otherwise, you waste a lot of time, you waste a lot of money, and your emotions, you can't even sleep. You know how it goes. You can't sleep. Like, you've told everybody, yeah, this game is coming out, it's going to be so great, blah, blah, blah. You dreamt about it, it's almost there, and just this single human being.
Yeah.
You have to be straight from the beginning.
For the
Yeah, but
money
like I
thing, by
said,
the way,
yeah.
just to,
Uh-huh.
before you can try have a system of payment. I know there's so many systems out there. There's milestone based, so you break down the project into milestones, and that's when you pay them. There's the one for you're giving something at the beginning, middle, and end. There's that one. Those are the two I normally use actually, because in gaming, milestone based actually just works the best. Okay, personally, I feel like milestones always work the best because you're giving them based on things that are actually important to your game. So at least even if he lives halfway, you know I've gotten to checkpoint 50%, and 50% of the shit that I wanted to do is done. That's what is normally better. So you tell him, okay, fine, UI is one milestone, background is one milestone. No, character animation is one milestone. So even if he leaves halfway, you know I have my UI and I have my backgrounds done. Yeah. So if you do it half, you'll have half of your UI done, then half of your backgrounds. Your game will look so funny. It'll be the weirdest thing. But yeah,
All right.
that's just my
So-
2 cents.
So on that, George, now I have. Sorry if I'm taking too much time with these experiences of mine. I have another experience I want to share, and this actually pertains to the first time I met you, George. You remember that the East Africa Game Conference?
Mhm.
You remember in 20? I think it was around 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for it was a gaming conference. It was a gaming exhibition or gaming conference that was it was in Easter of 2017 or 2016. I'm not quite sure.
Mhm.
So part of my game, what I do with my games, I always have comic books that are accompanying my games. And even I had a long running comic strip that usually appeared in one of the daily newspapers here in Nairobi, here in Kenya. So for that event, for the East Africa Gaming Conference in 2016, I actually wanted to launch my very first ever comic book. And now I got a different artist after the first artist had bailed on my project. Now I started working on a comic book with a different artist, and with this artist we agreed half of the money to kick off the project, half when you're done, right? And when it was 2 weeks, and you remember this is I'm hinging the launch of this comic book at this event, and the event date is set, and I had commissioned this guy like 6 months prior, like it was even like 6 to 8 months prior, and 2 weeks to the event, that guy had only delivered sketches. 2 weeks to the event. So
Ouch.
you know, it took me literally going to his house and threatening violence, and I got I got my artwork.
Okay,
The event was to kick off on Friday. I got my assets, like the artwork for my comic book, on Monday, and the event
What?
is for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All right, and with the printing place that I had already sourced a printing place in Nairobi where I was gonna print, they had told me 10 days. So I actually, and you know, this event is where it was the East Africa Gaming. So guys from all over East Africa, like it was the prime place to launch a comic book, if ever there was any, you know. And if I missed that event, like it was going to be catastrophic, not just on my finances, like just on the entire project, basically. So got my stuff on Monday. On Monday at like 7 p.m. is when I'm at the offices, the printing offices, pleading with that guy. Like, I know you told me that it's 10 days. I need this work on Thursday. Today's Monday. I need this work on Thursday. Right? And so they did the best that they could do. I actually had to go and get the comic books before the ink could dry. Like, the ink was still wet. And a lot of the comic books actually got damaged because of the wet ink, because they had that job had to be. But nevertheless, I managed to launch at that event. George was present at that event, and I recouped. In that weekend, I managed to break even. Everything that I had invested up to that point in the comic book and the game, I recouped in just that one weekend. So,
Wow.
yeah, it turned out to be a positive story, but with a very valuable life lesson.
So another experience that I had developing one of my games back in Ghana was my partner and I back then. We were already running a business, like we were entrepreneurs doing our own stuff. So adding gaming and all those stuff was okay. So we always took it from like a business standpoint, even in hiring. what we usually do is we cycle through a lot of artists. As Oscar Edler said, there are a lot of artists, surprisingly, underground artists. They are not in the mainstream, but they are there. So what we did was we are not afraid. We cycled through all these artists, had interviews with them. Like, sometimes we can even go and have a drink. Maybe the artists will think, oh, they are going to go for me, they're going to go for me. No, they are not going for you. So what my partner and I were doing all this while was, we were trying to figure out what that person really needs and ask ourselves if we can provide what that person really needs. So we came to a point where we found one artist that needed a website for his own artwork badly. And I was like, we can develop that website within a week. He will do his artwork within a month. Let's go for him. And he actually needs the website so badly. So that's how we exchange services to get our game done. And what we realized was, I could deliver the website within a week, and he would deliver within a month. But we stalled it. We stalled the development of the website. Other than that, I give you your website within a week, and that guy is gone within 2 weeks. So that's what I'm saying, that if you are always on a shoestring, you always have to, not to be smarter, but you have to be able to just be fair to the person and also to yourself. You understand? So always figure out what the person actually needs. Right now, don't go and put advert. You hire somebody that you pay so much money that will not deliver. But find what you can deliver to the person, and the person can also deliver to you.
Awesome. Fantastic. To bring it back, just overall thoughts. Oh, okay. Isaac, you will speak to John in the DM, in the chat. Okay. Yes. So just to bring it back, we've spoken about the mechanics. We've spoken about the art. Joanna, do you have anything to add on the art of Wana Savana?
No, I don't have anything to add. Earlier, actually, I had forgotten about the fact that it was a little girl, and diversity and inclusion, all of that. So I wanted to give a shout out to on that as well. So that's really cool to see, and I hope that we will see more and more of protagonists, female protagonists, African female protagonists in that type of games. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Just to touch on that too, before we go on, because I always feel like Africa is in a very interesting place, because we're literally at the beginning of our industry. So we are at that place where we can fix all the problems we see outside. So if there's any other issues, if it's pipeline, if it's diversity, if it's, I don't know, misogyny, or whatever, these are the problems all other isms and schisms that you find out there, we can actually fix them way before they even become problems later. Because 10 years from now, it becomes hard to fix. For example, you're thinking, look at this video call, for example. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 men. There's 1 woman. Also, these are kind of problems you'd think that could possibly be fixed, of course. And because we're at this early stage in our industry, this is something very easy you could do. You could have, for example, Mashariki could encourage more students to study it, and it impacts the industry in such a big way. Because if you think about this way, imagine you're working on a temple, you're building a building, for example, a home, and you have 100 people, but 50% of them decide they're not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, your building will be brought up much slower. But if 100% of them worked, it would be done at half of the time. Maybe even it would be more interesting, more engaging, more beautiful, and all these kind of different things. So I always try to encourage everybody. Having more women in the industry is always going to be impactful. Even for our games, it was so impactful that we didn't even notice it. Like some of the ideas I was thinking about, some of the realms that they wanted us to include, we could never think about, because at the time we were purely a male team. But it impacted us in a really, really positive way. So I always encourage people definitely to strive for it. Definitely do try and make your have a bit of a gender balance inside your teams, because at the end of the day, it actually does impact your creativity in very good ways. But yeah,
George, you're so right, because recently, a couple of weeks ago, a Nigerian game developer sent me a map of like a design of the map of the game, and he sent it to me, and I was like, okay, that looks like a uterus, you know that. So it was like, oh my god, I haven't actually, because I've got only male in my team. I didn't realize that.
Exactly.
So he had to change everything very quickly and he told me thank you, because otherwise he would have had like a lot of women and the press telling him that wasn't acceptable.
Yeah, that was inappropriate. Imagine launching a game and being told your game looks like a uterus. I'd be like, I'm done. I'm leaving this industry. It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, it's very impactful. A lot of ideas. If you think about the game industry, character creation, some of these MMORPGs, social elements in games, role-playing aspects in games, most of these ideas actually came from women. So you don't have RPGs in your life if women didn't enter the industry. So I definitely think about it. Our team isn't balanced. I'm not gonna go out there pitching about this like my team is the most balanced team out there. It's not, but I am trying. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.